Well, good day, everybody. This is Chris of The Ancient Scholar. I hope this video finds you all doing well. What I'm going to do today is I am going to go over my initial impressions of the Google Pixel 7 after approximately 1 week of use. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's go ahead and get started. So my initial impressions overall are quite good, as a matter of fact. I've had pretty good experiences with this phone. There are some issues that I have had and are having, but by and large, I've had some great experiences. I think as far as things go right now, this might be one of the, if not the best budget Android phone that has flagship or near flagship specifications. So let's talk about that. So first, it is using the updated Tensor G2 Generation 2 processor, the same as its larger and more expensive and arguably slightly more capable big brother. But the price is absolutely right on this phone. So you can get this phone for just under $600, $599 MSRP, at least in the United States. I can't speak about what it might cost in other regions of the world. This, I would say, is comparable to, say, the Apple iPhone 13, which goes for a couple $100 higher, at least here in the United States. So actually close to $300. I think it's, let's see here, $799 is MSRP for the iPhone 13 with a 6.1 inch 60 hertz AMOLED whatever Apple's version of high definition is, Super XDR or Retina display, something like that, with a dual lens camera. So this is essentially Google's version of the base iPhone 13, but this is a couple $200 cheaper, right? The iPhone 13 goes for $799. This goes for $599, and Google is currently offering some amazing trade-ins. I traded in an older iPhone that I had lying around, and they gave me, I think, $550 trade-in value, which essentially covered the cost of a brand new phone here. I did, of course, pay some money. I'm paying a monthly fee for insurance, and I think that's a good thing to do given the cost of phone repairs. But that aside, it's a steal of a deal, an absolutely steal of a deal. Very high value for what you pay for when compared to other phones in its class. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that I have struggled with on this phone. So first and foremost, the biggest struggle I've had on this phone from a user interface standpoint has been actually getting into the phone. So from what I understand, the fingerprint sensor has been updated this year, but if I'm being completely honest, I have not had a good experience with the fingerprint sensor. I've actually registered my finger and my thumb a couple of different times, and apparently it does improve as you use it, from what I understand, but I still continue to have problems getting into the phone with just the fingerprint sensor. It maybe half the time will not identify my fingerprint. So what I've done to work around that is I have this smart lock option where if the phone senses it's with me, it will unlock easier, so I can get into it quite easily that way. Also, the face unlock is pretty good, at least if there's light around and if I'm not wearing a mask. But the problem being, this is the phone that I'm using while I'm in the hospital, and I have to wear a mask all the time in the hospital. And so I have to rely pretty heavily on the fingerprint sensor when I'm not in my office or at home, and so that's a problem. So here you can see I'm using the fingerprint sensor. It failed. It worked there again. It's about 50-50 whether or not the fingerprint sensor is going to work. So that's a problem. Face ID is nice in light when I'm not wearing a mask. It's very good. It's quick. but it is not as reliable as I'd like when compared to other options that are out there, such as Apple's Face ID, which in my opinion is completely unbeatable at this point, and it works well with a mask on. So that's probably been my biggest issue, is getting into the phone, and that I've not had a great experience with the fingerprint sensor and the limited applications for Face ID. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot of bad to say about the phone. It is what it is. It's a newest version of Google, and so that's what you're going to get. And it's a very stripped down, nice, quick, easy to use version of Android, or Google makes Android, and I've really enjoyed that. This is kind of, the operating system is just kind of a breath of fresh air when compared to Apple. Its current iteration of iOS. And in contemporary times, Apple has moved closer to an Android-like experience. They've allowed more customization, a little more options, and so it is sort of Android-esque in its current contemporary version, but Android still has quite a bit to offer when it comes to customization. So when we go in, so here's my home screen. This nice always-on display. I actually prefer this style of always-on display when compared to Apple's always-on display, where their version is kind of this dimmed out picture, and it's kind of confusing because you look at it and your initial thought is, oh, I'm getting some sort of message or something like that. When in fact it's just always on display, and the display is very bright. Always on display on the new iPhone Pro and Pro Max is very bright, and you don't get an always on display when it comes to the entry-level versions of Apple, whereas you do get an always on display with this phone, with the Pixel here. The display is beautiful. It's pretty crisp, good colors. You don't have a lot of off-axis color shifting. You can have pretty good viewing angles. It's 90 hertz. It's not. It doesn't. As I understand, the response. It doesn't move though. It doesn't like go down to lower hertz refresh rates like some of the higher end displays. However, but I don't really have any problems with this, and I really can't tell the difference between 60, 90, and 120. When I'm just doing regular use. So, there's some really big benefits to this phone when compared to its Apple counterpart. And I'm comparing this to Apple because that's the paradigm I'm most used to. So that's the always on display. It gives you the time, gives you some weather, date, and any notifications will pop up here. So it's basic stripped down, gives you what you need. And that's fine with me. I really enjoy the lock screen. And then you have the home screen here, swipe up, and then your lock screen picture, and then you swipe up into your home screen, and this is fully customizable, and the customization is a bit easier and a bit more intuitive, I think, with Android. I just have to hold down, and then I go into wallpaper style, select change wallpaper, and then I have all these a great library of preset options, whereas Apple's is a little more basic. So let's just go into here, and let's just say I want to select this. So I select that, hit the little arrow there, and then it asks, do I want to do the home screen, lock screen, or both? Apple does this, but it is very convoluted, roundabout way of customizing your home and lock screens. So I'm just going to make it both home and lock screens, and you'll notice that the colors change. The colors of the text and the icons change. And if you want, you can actually, you have all of these nice little presets down here. So you'll see I'll select these different presets, and that will change the colors. And then I can even go into basic colors. So this gives you a lot more control over what the user interface looks like compared to the iOS operating system. You have these themed icons where any Google icon, Google specific icon, you can turn on the themed icons. So if you see here, see how they all take on kind of the color that I selected. If I turn that off, then that just gives me the standard icons there. I turn that back on, and then it gives me those themed icons. But you should know that the themed icons do not apply to many third-party applications. So you can see I have Apple Music on here, and that does not support the themed icons. Another nice touch is you can have dynamic wallpaper that's kind of always in motion. This is not, but you see as I swipe through, the picture changes a little bit as I swipe through my different screens. And that's just a nice touch that you don't have on Apple. You can have the parallax if you want, and you can also have the option for choosing Living Universe or more dynamic wallpapers. And so we'll just choose this wallpaper. This has been around for many years. I had this wallpaper back when I was rocking the Pixel 3. So I changed that, and you can see just some subtle motion, the waves and the water in here. It's subtle, but it's there, and you do get a little parallax on some of these. So you just have more options for customization of these phones when compared to something like an iPhone. So let's go ahead and go back and choose the OG, the original wallpaper that I had. I like that there. Okay, so I really like the user interface, and you can put the apps anywhere you want on your screen. So let's say I select the Play Store here. I can move this anywhere I have a space to move it. I'll have all my space filled up with this little widget here. But let's see here. Let's do this. Let's take this Monument Valley game here and move it over here. So I can move it up here if I want. I can move it down here if I want. And I can even change how the grid is set up, right? So the amount of customization that this gives you is quite extensive. And this is the stripped down basic version of Android, right? So you can get far out there you can download different launchers like Nova Launcher. There are applications such as, let's see here, I have this is called Forest, and I can set this, and this is actually has a kind of a forest, and I can change the color of the trees, I can make it rain. There you go. You can see it's windy, the wind's blowing the trees around. So just a nice little dynamic kind of wallpaper there. This is not something that you can do on, say, an iPhone. Again, it's just an incredible amount of customization, even at a very basic level. Some other things I really like, when it comes to using the camera, you can just double tap the power button, and that brings you right into your camera app. It's a simple thing, but it's easy. Now, I understand the Apple has the tap on the back, but the problem with that is I have a magnetic mount in my car, and if I get a couple of bumps or a few bumps, that'll actually activate the camera. So it's not something I can use, and I really prefer just having the power button and being able to use that as part of your accessibility. The other thing that I really like, or another thing I really like, is the text-to-speech is second to none when it comes to the Pixels. So let's just open up the recorder here. And I'm just going to run this recorder while I'm talking, and the translation capabilities with all the machine learning built into this phone is pretty amazing. And this can actually detect multiple people speaking, and then it will make a transcript, and it will tell you, person one, person two, whatever, and you can have this whole audio and visual transcript of an entire conversation. So let's stop that there, and I'm going to go into the transcript, And let me move in here, right? So you can see that it is of high fidelity as far as it copying and as far as it understanding what you're saying. And there are just lots of things built into that you can go in and explore. Like the camera has a lot of complex options available to you. Of course, you've got Google Photos, you've got things like Magic Eraser, which you don't have built into the iPhone. However, where the camera, or I should say the camera is incredibly good, and I would say on any given picture or any given day, the image quality is going to be roughly comparable to the iPhone 13 or iPhone 14. I know there are lots of people out there that are making all these videos about iPhone destroys Pixel or Pixel destroys iPhone. I'm going to be very honest in my assessment and just say that the photo quality, all things considered, is going to be roughly equivalent. Certain phones are going to shine in certain conditions on certain days and certain times and etc., but it's pretty comparable to the iPhone 14. Where this does lack a bit is in the video. The iPhone video is much better, and the really nice thing about the iPhone is that it has built-in video editing software, so you can actually edit video on device very easily, whereas with something like the Pixel, you have to find a third-party application, and I just haven't really found a really good application that is as easy and consistently good to use as the iMovie that's just built right into Apple. So Apple has some one-ups as well. But all things considered, I think that this is pretty comparable. The ecosystem's a little different on the Android, and Android, Google specifically versus Apple. There are some big ecosystem differences. iMessage and all of your devices working real well together. That is really nice, where it's not quite as good on the Pixel, although they've improved quite a bit with their messaging. But it's just not quite everything doesn't quite work as well as something like Apple, but that does produce a nice walled garden. But it is nice when you have lots of devices that you want to seamlessly communicate together. So the ecosystem, I would give a point there to the iOS, or just the general Apple ecosystem. But this allows a lot of customization. And again, if it was just down to price, like, the amount that you get for the amount that you pay, I would say that this phone is echelons beyond what you could get with an Apple iPhone 14. And this is from someone who is a voracious user of Apple products. I have the Apple iPhone 14 Pro, and I'm here to tell you that the money that you're going to pay, right, you're not getting as much out of that extra money. So several $100s between this versus an iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max, you're just not getting a whole lot of benefit out of all of that extra money when it's all said and done. So I would say, if you're looking for good quality, good photo quality, good enough video quality, you're looking for lots of perks and benefits, the machine learning, computational photography, the good text speech translation, those kinds of things, the call screening that's built into this. I haven't even talked about that, but that's an amazing thing to have. You're getting all of that packed into a device that's not even $700, it's $599, right? So you're getting a hell of a lot for your money out of this device, and it is crisp and smooth. Everything's worked. I haven't had any bugs. I haven't had any crashes. I haven't had any freezes like I have on prior Pixel phones. The 2 and 3 XL specifically were really buggy. Let's see here. As far as the battery life goes, I've had pretty good battery life. I can pretty much get through a full day of use. I mean, I'm not a super heavy user. I don't game on this. This is basically my work phone while I'm in the hospital with my students. But I have absolutely no problems getting through a day of use. I do use a screen protector, and I, of course, use a case. I think those are just essential. Doesn't matter if it's the newest formulation of Gorilla Glass on your phone or ceramic shield on the iPhone, whatever. You case it up, put a screen protector on, and protect your investment. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Now, the final question that I suppose I need to answer is, will this come to replace my iPhone? And my current answer to that, unfortunately, is no. And the reason that it can't, or I don't feel comfortable using this as my daily driver outside of work, really comes down to ecosystem. The Apple ecosystem has just got its hooks in me. It's got its hooks in my wife, and she has absolutely no interest in exploring any other options that are out there. And because everything is so seamless with Apple, I really need that so all of our stuff works together. In addition to that, as far as education goes, I have an iPad that I use for a lot of my lecturing. I use it as a whiteboard, and it's very well integrated into my lecturing and my educational activities, and I don't feel comfortable transitioning to any other paradigms. So while I cannot give enough praise to this phone, with the exception of some of the issues that I have with it, I can't praise it enough for the quality and really what you get for the amount of money that you're putting into this. It doesn't quite meet all of the needs that I have, but I will say that this, when I'm at work and I don't need my iPhone and I don't need all that integrated goodness that the Apple ecosystem offers, I am perfectly happy with this phone, perfectly fine with this phone. As far as its phone capabilities, it works just fine. It's fast, it opens applications, it runs applications just fine. I don't feel the need to do a bunch of benchmarks for you all or to compare this to any other phone. I know there are people out there that are very hyperbolic about, oh, look at this score so low on Geekbench, blah, 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 whatever. At the end of the day, in real world use, it's fine. It's just as good as any other flagship. It's going to open applications. It works fine. It's as fast as you need it to be. I don't have any issues with that. And I don't need to make money off of my channel. So I don't need to be hyperbolic with my assessment. And I understand other people do, because their channels may be their livelihood. So I don't want to put them down. I just want to say that this is my impression, and this is how I prefer to talk about this device. So I hope you all found this video helpful. I know it was kind of here and there and everywhere. It's just kind of a hot mess of a train wreck of a video, as most of my videos are. You know what you get when you watch my channel. It's pretty ad hoc. I don't do scripts and things like that. I just kind of go off, and hopefully the authenticity of that kind of shows through, and what I'm saying is authentically true whether you like it or not. But that's my impression of this phone. I'll tell you what, this has come a long way since the Pixel 3 XL that I had, and I am so happy and so excited to have this. And I think if you get this phone and you don't desperately need the Apple ecosystem, you've got a hell of a phone here, and this is going to be the value king for the most part when it comes to 2022. This is just an amazing phone for the money, particularly with inflation and how strapped for cash many of us are. I can't recommend this enough, with the few caveats that I discussed earlier in this video. Okay, everybody, we've gone almost 25 minutes of me just blathering, so I'm going to cut it off. Hopefully you found this video helpful and interesting. As always, take care and be safe.